Alright, hi, welcome again. Today we'll be talking about triangle congruence by ASA and AAS. And you'll also learn why we're not going to spell a bad word backwards. Okay, if you notice, if you paid attention last time, we did SSS and SAS, and if you notice, we're kind of running through the gamut of all the combinations of angles and side combinations. And also, we're going to not touch AAA. Not because it's a bad insurance or a bad automotive dealer, but mainly because it's not going to be used for triangle congruence. Okay, so triangle congruence by ASA. So ASA if two triangles have two angles and the included side between them congruent, then both triangles in totality are also congruent. I'm adding some vowels where I shouldn't. Okay? Alright, so in other words, if I have two triangles set up like this, and remember, you want to draw them so that they're going the same direction. If you don't draw them going the same direction, it's going to make your job a whole lot harder. Okay, so in other words, if I know that these two angles are congruent and these two angles are congruent in both triangles, and I know that these two sides are congruent, okay, then I also know that these combinations are congruent and these ones are congruent as well. Okay. Alright, so that one's pretty simple right there. Now, AAS is just the same thing, except it is two angles and a side not included, and that's not in between. Okay, and that one looks like this. And once again, I use the boring old model of drawing the triangles the same way, just because it just makes it a lot easier just to explain it and everything. Okay, and it also helps explain the differences between all three theorems. Okay, so for this one, let's say that we know that these two are congruent and these two are congruent. Okay, and a side not included could be right there, or it could be down here on these parts. Okay, and if I know that, then I know that the other parts as well. So in other words, these parts are going to be congruent, and same thing here. Okay? Alright, now to explain why SSA does not work the way it does, okay, first off, I can draw, let's talk about AAA. AAA is the easier one to talk about. Okay. If you notice, I'm drawing the same triangle but a little bit smaller. Now, congruency means same size, same angles, everything. Okay. This is something completely different. I could actually draw the same angle 3 times in 2 different triangles. Okay. Alright, but they're not this actual same size. They're not going to be congruent. This is going to be something else. This is going to be called similar. Okay, and they actually use this little symbol, this little button up here that you guys never use. And they're actually proportional. Okay, but we'll talk about that at the beginning of next semester. So AAA is good for similarity, not good for congruency. Okay. All right, so that's pretty simple right there. All right, now here's the thing, and I'm only going to draw part of it just to represent it. Okay, let's say I actually had, let me see, ASA. Okay, let's say I actually had something that looks like this. Okay, and this one I'm going to be talking about SSA. Okay, so this one is two sides and a not included angle. Okay, and I'm going to prove that this one's going to be kind of funky. Okay, so two sides and a not included angle. Alright, so what's going to happen is that I'm going to have these two set up right here. Okay, these are going to be, well, in actuality, the third side is going to be coming out right here. And I'm not going to close it, and you'll understand why in a sec. Okay, so let's say that this was A, and this was B, and the angle was here. Let's say this was angle X. Okay, and now the reason why we don't include this one, and this side we don't know about it, but we know that two triangles share this option. Okay, here's the funky thing. If B is too long, okay, let's actually use one that is too long. If it's too long, it's just going to be one triangle, and this other side has to match it. Okay, so that one's pretty simple. Alright, but here's the other thing. If B is just the right length, so let's say I didn't have it insanely long, but I had it just long enough, I could actually swing it back into here, so I could take it and swing it and still keep A, B, and X all the same, and keep them all the same, and yet have a different bottom side, and thus I have two different triangles that I could actually have. And these two triangles would look like this, or this. And this is the difficult part about this, and this actually comes up in trigonometry quite a bit. Okay, so this is both the same, this is both the same, okay, and this angle is both the same, but as you can see, I actually have two different triangles, so I don't know which one to use. So this is not so good, and we never use this for congruency. AAA you will see in similarity next semester at the beginning of, but you just won't see it during this time talking about congruency. But please understand, you got to understand that when you're doing congruency, the big ones that we're going to be using are ASA, AAS, also SSS, and SAS. Okay, if you're talking about those four, you should be good. If you notice, I have all the letters represented. I don't have like angle side angle or side side side. I just shorten them up. And so how do I name them? I just go, okay, what am I spelling here? I start at one side, I go A, and then I go to the next object that's congruent. Okay, and I do that. Okay. Okay, so during this unit, you guys are just going to be using the big four. Okay, and if you find yourself, like, let's say, for example, when you're listing out the sides, you're like going, oh, let me see, what am I spelling? A. Oh, that's a no-no. Or A, S. Oh, let's just go backwards. If I'm spelling SSA, which is a bad word backwards, okay, then I'm really doing something wrong. Okay, so I list off the sides that are marked and stuff. Okay, and remember, the sides can be marked like this. Okay, now the one that gets really confused with a lot of people is they actually do this, and they think it's, oh, it should be SAS, but in fact it's not. Okay, well, that's it for geometry and talking about triangle congruency shortcuts. We'll talk more about shortcuts in a little bit. Thank you.